The Hot Seat.
Welcome to The Hot Seat, a debate segment where ideas clash and insights spark. I'm your host, Hongbin Jeong. Back in the 1990s, if you ask someone in Singapore what success looked like, they'd probably give you these 5 letters: cash, car, credit card, condominium, and country club. Yep, the 5 C's. These items weren't just objects of desire, but symbols of success, prestige, and social standing. They were so entrenched in our culture that they shaped not just individual ambition, but national identity. But are they still relevant in 2025? Is the Singaporean dream still built on the 5 C's, or have we moved on? Well, before we hear from our guests and dive deeper into this debate, here's a disclaimer. The views and arguments presented by our interviewees do not necessarily reflect their personal beliefs or opinions. Instead, they're here to provide a fresh perspective on the topic at hand. On that note, if you'd like to send some questions in for our guests, feel free to WhatsApp us at 88550893 or leave a comment on our Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, as we're currently streaming live on those platforms as well. Without further ado, joining us today is Adam Wong, the editor-in-chief of The Fifth Person, to share with us why the 5 C's is still the ultimate Singaporean dream. And we also have Vanessa Ho, the co-founder of Fintech Nation, who will try to convince us otherwise. Welcome to the show, both. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
All right, just to start off here, Adam, you believe that the 5 C's are still the ultimate Singaporean dream. So have you achieved the 5 C's, and how has that helped you achieve that Singaporean dream?
It's funny because I get invited on the show and the first thing you ask me is whether I have achieved the 5 C's. So the answer is yes and no. So there are some 5 C's that I have achieved, and there are some which I have no wish to have.
Okay, which are?
The country club. I have no wish to have a country club membership. I think it's not something that I would spend money to, go there and play golf or eat my nasi lemak. I don't know.
Makes sense.
I'm really deliberating on whether I want to buy a car.
Okay.
But it's so convenient to travel around in Singapore. And the rest of the other 5 C's, the cash, credit card, condo, I have achieved.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, Vanessa, you don't believe that the 5 C's are relevant in the Singaporean dream now. So what are the problems of the traditional 5 C's? What are the new 5 C's that define the Singaporean dream?
Yes, I think the peers around my age, say 20s to late 30s, have new 5 C's. I think car is not so much a symbol of status as much as before. I think there's less priority to kind of prove something with some material goods. People appreciate experiences, lifestyle choices, much more than a lot of material goods like your country club membership as well. Although on a personal take, I would love to play golf in a country club all the time, but doesn't mean I would necessarily spend that over many other things. I think the new 3 C's, beyond cash, which I think all of us need, would be choice, freedom of choice to do what we want, how we work, where we work.
Ooh.
Next is community, finding our tribe, finding hobbies and interests that we can align with people. And of course, that takes money in some cases. Plus career. And that may or may not mean how much money we make as the first metric, but also a career that we find purposeful.
Okay, community, career, and choice. Those are the new 3 C's rather that you've highlighted there. And for those listening in, tuning in, if you think that the 5 C's are changed to something different, let us know. What do you think the new 5 C's are? Text us 88550893. Well, continuing on here, I mean, many Singaporeans on platforms like Reddit have said that the traditional 5 C's are no longer meaningful. Instead, they're focused on things like financial independence, early retirement, and work-life balance, some of which Vanessa have also, highlighted there. Some even said the only C that they still care about is cash, mainly as a tool to achieve freedom, not status. So, Adam, if the majority are now prioritizing FIRE, which is also known as the early retirement, and work-life balance over the traditional 5 C's, doesn't that suggest that old markers of success no longer resonate with Singaporeans today?
I think it's not necessarily about having the 5 C's, but like you said, having the choice to have the capability to actually, afford the 5 C's. So, for example, the FIRE movement is a big thing, and I think a lot of people nowadays, they don't need to have that condominium because you can live in a very comfortable HDB, and you've seen the interior design for these HDBs.
Right,
They're beautiful.
yeah.
You don't really need a condominium. So it's a choice. You could afford the condominium if you like the lifestyle choice. I bought a condominium, right? But you don't have to, and you have the choice to actually, choose not to have that and then go for your fire path. So I've read on Reddit as well as like if I buy a car, it's going to set my fire path like back by maybe 5 years or something like that. And do I want to do that? I paid off my HDB. Do I want to chain myself to another mortgage and buy the condominium? But some people do go with that, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a worthwhile dream if you have it to go for it.
Okay. Well, but even if the 5Cs is no longer the dream, it seems like Singaporeans still focus on cash as a means to, fire. So, Vanessa, isn't this just a new version of the same old financial freedom? How is this any different from chasing the 5Cs?
That's true. I think it stems from parental pressure, a lot of peer pressure, especially with social media and everyone flexing their next beautiful holiday, the new Birkin. There's a lot of pressure to still prove some sort of wealth. In what shape and form, I think that has diversified. In the past, it's continental cars and which golf memberships you have. I think now it's still a lot of pressure to prove that you are successful beyond your peers, but in many other states and form. So cash, I think, is still number one in all our minds, especially in times of uncertainty like this, where a lot of early 20s are struggling to find a stable job, figuring out what stability is. I think that gives comfort to everybody.
Definitely. I mean, it's also highlighted that rising costs have made car ownership and condos increasingly out of reach. COE prices and $1 million condos, make these former symbols of success feel unattainable for many, pushing people toward more modest goals like owning an HDB flat or relying on public transport. So, Adam, if the 5Cs are so expensive that most can't afford them, isn't it unrealistic and maybe even unfair to hold them up as the benchmark for success?
I think it's just one benchmark for success. It's a very material lens on success. And whether you want to subscribe to that is up to you. But I think a benchmark or a dream, a Singaporean dream, it should be something that you aspire to. It's a little bit hard to achieve. If it's something that it's easy to achieve, I think it's less of a dream. So that's why we still have a car or continental car or condominium. It still remains a dream for many people. If I still want to live there, I still want to drive a car, even though you don't really have to because of the choices that we have in Singapore.
Right.
But I think something that's a little bit out of reach, but you work a bit hard for, I think that's a dream. Yeah.
Okay. But if people are settling for HDBs and public transport because the 5Cs are out of reach, isn't that a sign that the Singaporean dream itself is shrinking and not evolving, Vanessa? I mean, in this context, isn't the Singaporean dream only for the rich then?
I think it's evolving. Like what Adam said, something out of reach is true in certain cases as well. But it's good. It's quite a good reflection that Singaporeans are maybe hungrier, more driven, and more motivated and hardworking than people elsewhere. And having that benchmark may not necessarily be a good thing. But I think this has really been redefined. I don't think it's the material good, but having enough flexibility on top of the money to do the things that we love and make us happy. I think from my own personal experience as well and the peers around me, a lot of us chose career choices, not by the pay grade. We've taken jobs that have paid us less, but we got more flexibility to travel or do something that we truly believe in. I think that's a new benchmark of success, both the happiness and the reward that comes on top of the money.
Well, speaking of new benchmarks here, the Straits Times notes that younger Singaporeans want flexibility, creativity, and space to pursue their passions through side hustles, entrepreneurship, or the arts. Now, this move away from rigid career paths and conventional success suggests a broadening of the dream. So, Vanessa, isn't this focus on passion and flexibility a luxury only a few can afford? Shouldn't Singaporeans focus on, security and stability represented by the 5Cs that matter the most?
That's true. I think a lot of fresh graduates just dive into their passion job or take a lot of mental health breaks and sabbatical. I'm sure you see a lot of that in LinkedIn. And of course, I think that's something that might not be forward looking enough, especially in the future when they don't have enough cash for emergencies or to start a family. That's when they start panicking and be like, okay, I've had a lot of fun in my youth when I have maximum energy, but I didn't plan so much in the future. I think striking the balance is very important. It's something that I remind myself all the time as well as I start working and my lifestyle starts to upgrade. I get very carried away with a lot of peers who are around my age and what I read in the news where everyone's pursuing the dream job and holidays and luxuries. But it's good to stay in check time to time, especially in a very Asian society where I think our parents will never let us forget that we have to plan for the future, get a house, make sure we have enough for emergencies and family.
Definitely. But I mean, some Singaporeans say they're chasing not the 5 Cs or fire, but simply contentment. I mean, they value enough income for a simple life, meaningful relationships, and time for hobbies, and perhaps time for a vacation. And for them, the dream is about being happy, not about status. So, Adam, doesn't this prove that the 5 Cs focus too much on possessions and not enough on really brings people fulfillment outside of materialistic possessions?
I agree. I think it's a very materialistic point of view in terms of success. But you have to remember that the 5 Cs comes from an age when Singapore was a lot younger and we're not so rich. I grew up in the 90s, so I remember the 5 Cs. And that was how we defined our happiness in a sense, because Singapore was still growing up we're still a young nation, SG60, right? But back then it was something to aspire to. But it's different now because now Singapore's a lot more developed. We have so many things to be thankful for and grateful for. All our walkways are covered, and the young people nowadays they take a step back and they see all this wealth around us, this abundance, and they go, "Why am I chasing this? It's something we're comfortable." The younger generation are more comfortable, and they start asking themselves whether I should go for the 5 Cs. It's something that I don't have to subscribe to. So like what you mentioned, like being content, building a contribution to society, these things become more important. But it's not a binary choice where you had to go, I'm gonna live like a monk, and then I forget about the 5 Cs. You can do both.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you don't need to stick to the 5 Cs. It's there. But, I mean, we've gotten both great perspectives here about the 5 Cs. So to wrap up our conversation here, I mean, some Singaporeans may still believe in the 5 Cs, while the rest may prioritize financial freedom and contentment. But do you think the Singaporean dream should represent, or what do you think the Singaporean dream should represent in today's society? Vanessa, you want to go first?
Yes, I think the two most important C out of the three that I mentioned earlier is definitely career and choice. I think career is so important. I think our society is really built on just people. I think we can't just forget among our mental health breaks and sabbaticals that we do have to hustle. It's a small country. We have to stay competitive. I really hope that remains a big Singaporean dream, not just for myself, but I think from a country perspective. And second is choice. Choice, not just from the money that we need to make to keep the roof over our head, but the choice to make sure that we are happy and we're not just going paycheck to paycheck and going home 9 to 5. But I think the choice to make career decisions as we want, the choice to make lifestyle choices that we want, I think that's a more complete life.
All right. And Adam?
This is really interesting. So I had a discussion with my friends maybe a year back on our podcast about the 5 Cs and whether it was still relevant. Same question today. And we actually plugged in this question into ChatGPT.
Oh.
What are the new 5 Cs that Singaporeans should subscribe to?
Okay, so what did
today?
ChatGPT say?
And the AI is really smart. So it told us, and you can use this for yourself. First one is condition. So mental health, physical condition, that's really important. Health is wealth. Second one is competence. So whatever you do, your work, you should be doing the best at what you're doing. The third one is contribution to society, you could be doing charity and stuff like that. The other one is connection, so your relationships with your friends, your family. That's very important. And the last one, which I think is the key, is contentment. So to just be content with the blessings that you have. And just chill, man. So I think that was brilliant from the machine. And,
it's reading our minds.
Exactly. So like some humans don't know that the machine is telling you these are the 5 Cs you should go for.
Perhaps ChatGPT is also part Singaporean.
Yeah.
Well, we've had this conversation on the 5 Cs in light of National Day tomorrow. Hope you guys have a great day celebrating. Thank you so much both for joining me today.
Thank you.
Happy National Day.
Happy National Day.
We've been speaking to Adam Wong, the editor-in-chief of The Fifth Person, and Vanessa Ho, the co-founder of Fintech Nation. Thank you to all those who tuned in on our social media platforms and on air as well. Tune in again next week for another Hot Seat. I've been your host, Hongbin Jeong.
This is Money FM 89.3, Singapore's first and only business and personal finance station.